Hello, everyone, and welcome to another brain coaching, executive coaching live stream. Today, we are talking about one of the foundational skills you need to get better at urgently if you're interested in sustainable productivity, sustainable high performance, sustainable optimal performance. And what does it mean, sustainable? It means not going from being super productive and super active in all areas of your life and then burning out and barely able to do anything, feeling like you don't care about life, you don't care about work, you don't care about other people or everyone on your case, and everybody needs something from you, right? You lose a lot of consistency and momentum if you go, instead of going like this with your productivity and results, or like fluctuating a little bit, instead you're going like this, and not your business, not people around you can depend on that. And if you're not able to recover optimally and effectively and fast, what's going to happen is, again, not only nobody will be able to rely on you, you are not going to be able to rely on your own energy, on your own productivity. And when you schedule certain things to get done, and when you schedule to deliver things of great quality, leading someone, delivering talks, creating presentations for your business, talking with possible investors, partners, whatever that might be, if you are fatigued, if you are exhausted, if you are tired, you cannot fake it, not for a long time. And people will start to notice, and you will start snapping at people more often, and you will look for shortcuts, and that happens in your brain automatically. Whenever your energy reserves start to tank, your brain starts taking shortcuts everywhere. Your lifestyle, your habits, people and relationships around you, absolutely everything. You're going to be taking shortcuts that in business and your life, after a certain point, will basically crush your best efforts on your most productive days. So you got to get effective with recovery. It's kind of like this sprinting analogy. In order for a sprinter to perform really, really well when the work, when the competition requires it, he actually needs to get really, really good at recovery, not just the sprinting. For a lot of professional athletes I personally worked with, their next level always like in the effectiveness of their recovery. Once they started to recover much better, they started to show much better results on a much more consistent basis. And they stopped having those burnouts or health problems, injuries that usually, if an athlete doesn't manage their recovery well, pop up, with a certain frequency, more frequent or less frequent, depending on how good or bad an athlete is with recovery. But if you work in a boardroom, if your arena is corporate work, you also kind of an athlete, but your tool is your brain, is your mind, is your nervous system. And your body doesn't really get a hit at first, until you compromise all of your health habits along with it. But your nervous system does. And that's why a lot of you working mentally and cognitively, that's why you feel fatigued and burned out. Not because you burned out your body or your physical reserves, but because you burned out your nervous system. So how to prevent it? Get better at recovery. And yesterday we talked about memory. Yesterday we talked about creativity. And today we're actually going to be talking about basically the same nutrition item, a supplement and the food that I would like you to eat a lot more often. But this food doesn't just work on your memory and creativity, it also works on your recovery. So first, let me read you something from the internet. If you Google things like acetylcholine and rest and digest system, what you will find is that actually your rest and digest state, your recovery state, your ability to effectively restore your nervous system, your brain, and the rest of your nervous system and body, it depends on how well your nervous system can switch from fight or flight, ready to go, being productive, to recover, rest, relax. like, to give you an example, what effective recovery means. It doesn't mean spending a lot of time on your recovery. No, effectiveness means you can switch off, get into recovery mode really fast. Like, for example, if you have a chair that you can just, lean on and close your eyes, you should be able to get into recovery in a nanosecond as soon as you close your eyes. And then you spend 5 minutes there and you're ready to go for another 90 minutes or so, right? A lot of high performance people don't want to do recovery because they think it's something you have to spend a lot of time on. No, actually, if you get effective with it, if you work on your nervous system, and if you provide all the building materials to get into this rest and digest state, you can recover really fast. And that's what effectiveness means. But in order to do that, here is a trick. Your parasympathetic system, your switch to rest and digest, it requires certain nutrients, believe it or not. Well, first of all, it requires neurotransmitters, those molecules that are created in your brain, also not just in your brain, but we're talking about our brain today. Acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter, a molecule created in your brain every time your brain needs to create a state of recovery, a state of rest and digest, the opposite of fight or flight and action that is driven by adrenaline in the brain or norepinephrine. So you need to create, your brain needs to create that molecule to switch on rest and digest and switch off ready to go, ready to fight and take action. Now, that molecule requires choline that comes from foods, and not just any foods, but the richest sources are eggs. I prepared, some eggs so I could illustrate it. So the richest sources are eggs and liver. Most of you are not going to be eating a lot of liver. And most of you, because of some dietary stuff that you've heard once about cholesterol or other stuff, most of you might be thinking, well, eggs is a problem food. I need to eat less of them. Where it's actually the richest source for most people of that choline that is needed to create the state of rest and digest where you can effectively recover. Basically, to switch on and off between fight or flight, rest and digest, between on and off, you need a lot of choline in your system. And you need to create acetylcholine. That's the end point. If you were to get that choline from eggs, you would need 4.2 eggs per day. Women need a little bit less, so men need a little bit more. But most of you, of course, like myself, not going to be eating 3 eggs per day and then having a great whole food diet every single day to get all of the choline you need from food. So most of you, I recommend eating at least a couple of eggs per day. And then also on top of that, find one of the supplements, either alpha GPC, the brand doesn't matter, just find the good quality, or acetylcholine that is also as the brand name known as cognizin. Again, if you have any questions about any of those supplements, please put your questions in the comment section. This alpha GPC, this molecule is very effective at being used as a precursor of acetylcholine. Basically, your brain uses this to make acetylcholine to switch on rest and digest so you could recover effectively at any time, anywhere. And especially if you're struggling with things like racing mind and you're trying to relax, but you just can't. You're still like in this state, like electricity is running through you. So not having enough acetylcholine in your system doesn't just affect your memory, it also affects that rest and digest state and the effectiveness of it, how fast you can get into it and how well you can rest and recover in it. So alpha GPC, if you don't eat eggs or don't eat that many, then 300 milligrams of it 3-4 times per day. And I usually have it with me anyhow when I travel or on some days I just don't eat eggs for one reason or the other. I actually love eggs, so I take additionally alpha GPC to get my rest and digest system effectively working so I can rest and recover, so I could go again with full intensity at whatever it is I want to do. Because also, we don't want to waste time, right? You personally probably don't want to be spending hours on a task that could have taken just an hour if your brain was working right, if your brain was rested, if your brain was at its best. And one of the conditions to get your brain into its best performance into its optimal state is providing optimal recovery. But again, that optimal recovery depends on something external. Eat your eggs, take your alpha GPC or 𝐶𝑑-choline. I like alpha GPC just because it's always easier to find and seems to be the most effective. So do it. So again, you can recover effectively and can go full speed very effectively at tasks at hand, and you can knock out task one after one after one, effectively get things done and get things moving, and then enjoy the rest of your life. So being, again, effective at recovery is like for that sprinter, that's where your next level of performance is. Otherwise, you can be just running yourself into the ground, trying to get out of the rut and not really understanding why can't you get to the next level, because that level might depend on creativity that you only can tap into in the rest and digest mode effectively, not when you are stressed and fatigued. And that's it for today, folks. So you actually need to eat something or supplement with something to turn on that rest and digest state to be optimally productive sustainably. If you have any questions, if you found it fascinating and definitely want to put into practice right away to be as effective as you possibly can be at recovery as well, not just at getting some things done. So if you want to know more, if you have questions, please comment below. And also, in the description of this video, you'll find a link to our 6-week My Optimized Brain Mastermind / challenge that I do with entrepreneurs. We get together for 6 weeks, and one of the modules is dedicated to optimal brain nutrition. So you can recover to the best of your ability, so you can be as creative as you can possibly be, so your flow state and your focus are on demand and you're not missing any building blocks. And that is all underneath this video. And if you have any questions, put them below and stay tuned for more executive coaching, brain coaching live streams. And have an awesome weekend. Do get some recovery in. And don't forget to eat your eggs or take your alpha GPC.